In the sun-scorched expanse of the Australian outback, the most dangerous threat to a 200-pound Eastern Grey Kangaroo isn't the razor-sharp talons of a wedge-tailed eagle or the bone-crushing jaws of a dingo. It is a creature so small it can hide beneath the tip of your fingernail. Hidden beneath the thick gray fur of an exhausted male kangaroo, thousands of microscopic, eight-legged parasites are waging a silent, terrifying war of attrition. Each tiny creature digs its mouthparts deep beneath the skin, locking itself in place like an anchor, and begins to feast. This isn't just a minor itch, this is a total biological collapse. As the wet season gives way to sweltering heat, the tick population explodes across the dry eucalyptus woodlands. Paralysis ticks and bush ticks crawl up the stalks of tall savanna grasses, legs extended, waiting for a passing shadow. When a kangaroo brushes past, dozens of ticks cling to its pelt, immediately migrating toward the places the animal cannot easily reach: the deep recesses of its ears, the soft skin around its eyelids, the armpits, and the groin. Within days, hundreds of ticks multiply into thousands. Each engorged female swells to over 100 times her original size, ballooning into a leathery, lead-colored sack of stolen blood. The physiological toll on the giant marsupial is catastrophic. Blood loss leads to severe, debilitating anemia. The kangaroo's heart pumps furiously, attempting to circulate oxygen through a body that is rapidly running empty. What began as a mild irritation turns into a slow, agonizing starvation. A kangaroo needs immense energy to hop. Its iconic leap is a biomechanical marvel that relies on powerful spring-like tendons. But without blood, those muscles wither. The beast stumbles. Its heavy tail, normally an anchor of balance, drags uselessly in the red dust. Unable to travel the miles required to find fresh grass and water holes, the once mighty herbivore collapses into the shade of acacia tree, too weak to stand, surrounded by a mob that is slowly moving on without it. Every breath is a struggle. Flies begin to cluster around the dying giant. In the brutal mathematics of the wild, a downed herbivore is as good as dead. Predators scent the weakness from miles away, and scavengers circle in the thermals above. Left alone, the kangaroo will succumb to blood loss and organ failure within 48 hours. The ticks have effectively paralyzed their giant host through sheer numbers, draining its life force drop by drop. Then, from the canopy above, a sharp metallic call echoes across the clearing. A small, unassuming bird lands on a low-hanging branch just feet above the fallen marsupial. It is a honeyeater, lightweight and nimble, with sharp eyes that scan the ground below. To a human observer, the tiny bird looks like a helpless bystander in a land of giant marsupials. But to the tick colony currently draining the kangaroo alive, this bird is an apex predator. The bird tilts its head, fixing its keen gaze on the kangaroo's matted coat. It hops down onto the dirt, taking cautious, deliberate steps toward the massive, prone body. Under normal circumstances, approaching a wild kangaroo is suicide for a small bird. A single reflex swipe from the kangaroo's powerful forelimbs could crush the bird instantly, and its dagger-like hind claws are capable of disemboweling large animals. But the bird recognizes something in the giant's total immobility. It senses an opportunity. With a sudden, energetic flutter of wings, the bird leaps directly onto the kangaroo's flank. The kangaroo winces. Its skin twitches violently, an automatic response to an intruder. Muscles tense across its shoulders. The bird stays still, balancing on the rise and fall of the animal's heavy chest, waiting out the instinctual reaction. For a tense moment, the wild hangs in a delicate balance. If the kangaroo panics and rolls, the bird could be crushed. If the bird flinches and flies away, the kangaroo's last lifeline vanishes. But as the bird remains motionless, the kangaroo's heavy eyelids flutter open. It stares directly at the tiny creature resting on its ribs. It does not fight. driven by a desperate, primitive understanding that it has reached the absolute limit of survival. The giant yields. The bird gets to work. Using its fine, tweezers-like beak, the bird plunges into the dense fur. It targets a swollen, blood-engorged tick buried near the kangaroo's shoulder. With a precise twist and a sharp tug, the bird pops the parasite free from the flesh. The tick, bursting with protein, is swallowed whole in a fraction of a second. The bird doesn't stop. It moves with frantic, methodical speed, hopping along the kangaroo's back, picking off dozens of parasites per minute. What follows is one of the most remarkable cleanup operations in the natural world. The bird works its way toward the most dangerous areas, the zones where ticks collect in lethal clusters and where the skin is thinnest. It hops right onto the kangaroo's forehead. With incredible precision, it plucks parasites from the delicate skin around the animal's eyes, inches away from the large, dark cornea. The kangaroo remains completely frozen, holding its breath as the sharp beak operates around its site. Next, the bird targets the ears. Ticks often gather inside the ear canal, causing excruciating pain and disorienting the host's sense of balance. The bird leans in, probing deep into the inner folds of the ear, wrenching out giant leathery ticks one by one. The kangaroo leans its head back into the dirt, letting out a low, heavy sigh of release. The agonizing pressure that has plagued the animal for weeks begins to melt away. For the bird, this isn't an act of mercy. It is a nutritional jackpot. A single blood-engorged tick provides more calorie-dense fat and protein than hundreds of tiny insects caught in flight. The bird feeds until its own belly is full, yet it continues the surgical extraction, dropping crushed parasites onto the dirt. Other birds in the canopy notice the commotion. Soon, a small flock joins the operation, turning the solitary rescue into a full-scale biological intervention. They work over every inch of the kangaroo's body, stripping away the parasitic load that was dragging the giant into the grave. As the afternoon sun begins to dip below the horizon, the transformation is staggering. Hundreds of ticks that once covered the kangaroo have been eradicated. The skin, though raw and pitted with small wounds, is finally free of the draining parasites. The constant, agonizing leaching of blood has stopped. The birds take flight, disappearing back into the safety of the eucalyptus trees. On the ground, the kangaroo lies still for a long time, its body absorbing the absence of pain. Slowly, tentatively, the blood volume in its system begins to stabilize. The heart no longer has to work twice as hard to push oxygen through depleted veins. Bone marrow goes into overdrive, churning out fresh red blood cells to replace what was lost. The kangaroo shifts. It plants its forepaws into the red dust and pushes upwards. Its hind legs tremble under the sudden weight, but the muscles hold. It sways for a moment, testing its balance, before lifting its heavy tail off the ground. It takes a slow, cautious step forward, then another. The lethargy that threatened to end its life has lifted. It lowers its head to graze on the dry grass, taking in the vital nutrients needed to rebuild its strength. By nightfall, the kangaroo is on the move again, hopping through the shadows to rejoin the safety of the mob. This extraordinary interaction reveals a profound truth about the wild. Nature's most effective weapons against death are often the most unexpected. In an ecosystem as unforgiving as the Australian bush, survival is rarely a solo endeavor. A multi-ton beast can be brought to its knees by an enemy smaller than a grain of rice, only to be resurrected by a creature that weighs less than an ounce. The alliance isn't born out of friendship or compassion, but out of ruthless evolutionary logic. In the brutal, beautiful calculus of the wilderness, one animal's desperate crisis is another's ultimate feast. And sometimes, that coincidence is the only thing standing between life and extinction.